So we have two amazing speakers. I was so excited to bring them on today. And Brad has worked with them and has known them for a while now, and he's going to introduce them to us.
Yes, thank you. It's so my pleasure to introduce Jason and Pili. I've had the honor of working them for about I'd say maybe a year now, that they came on to Invest Next. So we have the pleasure of working with them, watching them grow from where it was even a year ago with the syndication aspect of how many properties they've brought on in the last year. And I know they've got some amazing stuff down the pipeline over the next couple months. So it's my pleasure to introduce Jason and Pili. How you two doing?
Doing great. How are you guys?
So good.
Very well, very well. So I think we'll start at where you are now. So tell us what's the portfolio like? Where is Yarusi Holdings today? And then we'll kind of go back from the beginning and see how it all started.
Yeah, sure. So we're multifamily syndicators. We were in New Jersey. I grew up in New Jersey. Pili's from Hawaii. We found each other in New York City, and then found our way back to New Jersey. We moved down to just south of Nashville about 7 months ago, 7 months ago now. Crazy enough, we've been here. Our portfolio is spread out across. We're plus or minus between 900 and 1,000 units, with some properties we've just brought on and two we've just sold. And
honestly, we haven't counted.
Yeah, so that hasn't been really the goal. But in that front here, we have properties across really 4 states right now. So we're in Georgia, we're in Tennessee, we're in Kentucky, and Eastern PA. As where our big focus continuing to go forward. Well, actually, let me take that on. We just closed one in Arkansas that I'm forgetting about. So we'll say 5 states right now. But we've really pushed to find properties that are underperforming, whether it's on the property side or the management side. Typically, we find a combination of both. We go in there and really just make them better places to live. And we do that by partnering with investors to have them come in and align with us, so we can really go after bigger properties and benefit from the economies of scale. So we use syndication, which allows us to do that, where we raise capital from others, friends and family, or retail investors, as we grow our network here. And we go after these larger assets that have this deficiency in one of those two capacities. And we've now been doing this just in the syndication space. First acquisition was back in 2017. We've been continuing to look to really target to close about 1 deal a quarter for now the last about 2 years now.
That's amazing. So you briefly touched on how you met. Can you go into that? How did you guys meet?
Well, it was a lot of her telling me no for 11, 12, 13 years.
We told each other no.
Yeah. So we met
2003. We met back in 2003. We were both bartenders, bar managers in New York City. Jason was doing some side construction work, and he ended up doing some side construction work at a bar I was currently managing in Chelsea, on the water, on the Hudson River. And this is before Chelsea was like the Chelsea you know of today, especially the Hudson River. It was like kind of like, it was, I had my keys in my hand while walking across the West Side Highway to get to work. Let's just say that. But this place was like, it housed like over 3,000 people. It was a crazy bar and like nightclub type of vibe. And we were repainting, like the bartenders also painted, and we did all sorts of things. It was a crazy time. We were all in our 20s. And one of the bartenders brings in Jason and says, Jason's going to help us paint. I was like, cool, you can paint, great. And he can, by the way, he can also bartend. I was like, yeah, I'll see it when I believe it. And he could actually bartend circles around me. So that was one thing I learned back in my 20s, hire people that do it better than you did. So everyone I hired was a better bartender than me. So that's how we met. And from then on in, we've been really good friends. He's been managing, I've been managing, and finally it was 2012.
Yeah, it took about 10 years where Pili, I was mainly in New York City, and Pili was in California, Hawaii, back to New York City, back to Hawaii. And then 2013, we finally found each other and really started out. I had opened and sold a brewery in New York City and opened some restaurants. And so we were in that arena, and then Hurricane Sandy happened on the East Coast. And my dad has this niche construction company that targets lifting and raising houses. He's done that for decades now. But he would do, maybe like 10, 12 projects a year. And then Hurricane Sandy happened and hundreds of thousands of homes got flooded, right? So the need to lift these houses went from, projects that would happen for a lot of various reasons to just night and day, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of phone calls. So my brother, who was working for us at the time, Pili, at the bar, and we now went out to New Jersey to help Dad take on the construction company. And it was one of these points that we were psyched to go help Pop, but this was never going to be our ultimate end goal, right? So we did a lot of projects, actually a couple thousand over the next couple of years. We were doing about from 12 projects to about 300 plus a year, in a pretty crazy point for a couple of years now, lifting these homes. And so we took on a lot of things there, but then we started making the transition to just find where we wanted to be. And, Pili was pregnant with our first child at the time, and we would just want to get a way that we could get back our time. So we thought that we were really finding the direction with real estate. However, we took the step into being active, right? So here we go. We're doing hundreds of projects on the construction side a year, right, with a family company, where we have, if we could have had 8 days a week and 25 hours a day, we could have, exhausted it, but we didn't. And then we pick up now where Pili becomes an agent.
Yeah, so in 2013, we decided to exit the restaurant business. I didn't want to bartend, manage restaurants anymore, and we wanted to start a family. So 2013, we transitioned. We're in New Jersey, and I decided to get my real estate license. I got my real estate license first trimester. So for any of my mamas out there, you know how this is. My mind was not into real estate. Thank goodness I had a teacher who was just like, you can take naps, you can do whatever you want, just pass your test. Pass my test with flying colors. But yeah, so I've either been pregnant or with a small child throughout this entire real estate journey. Our children are currently 2, 4, and 6, but our 2-year-old's about to have a birthday tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, amen to that. I don't know how you guys pull it all off, but amazing. I want to go back to your
bar and put people that are better than us around us that help us to the mission, right?
It's always key partnerships, right? Making those relationships that turn into those amazing partnerships that help uplift everyone.
Absolutely. And we'll get into partnerships in a bit. I'd love to hear how you guys pulled off such a big business and, just owning that many units. But Jason, what does lifting a home involve?
So it can be very simple and very complicated at the same time, but basically the house is built on a foundation. And when it floods, it's no longer at a height that FEMA or the town requires is high enough to hopefully avoid it from flooding again in the future. So what happens is that there's steel beams that we own. We actually take those steel beams and put them under the wood frame house, basically not through the foundation to support the house and create a temporary shoring. And then inside of the foundation, and say it's in the crawl space or in the basement, we set basically, we'll say like Lego blocks of wood, Jenga, right, around. And within there, we put jacks, and the jacks tie back to a manifest. And then the building is lifted up to a new height, whether it be 2 feet or 10 feet higher. So hopefully that it will now not flood again, right? And so with that becomes a lot of regulations, a lot of codes, a lot of things that have to progress to meet that here. But all these homes were being raised to these new elevations, having new foundations built to support the house at the new height, higher stairs, different utility packages. And so we drew that, across now. We've done probably, 2,500 since Sandy out there, but there's still, a ton. So a lot of these homeowners, some did it out of pocket, some got grants. Some did a combination of, financing or others. But the narrative was that their flood insurance, and you'll still see this today, right? If you own a property in a flood zone, your flood insurance is massively going up. And you're probably wondering what that reason is. Well, with all these storms that have happened from, New Jersey to even like Houston, when Houston flooded, right? Because of the lack of drainage, all these areas the National Flood Insurance Program never thought that they would have all this happen, right? So now they've almost bankrupted themselves twice because they'd have to offer out all this money for these points. And so what they're doing is they had these discounts for people to get flood insurance before, and now they're trying to bring everybody back to true. So if you're a single family house, you were going up about 12% a year. If you're seeing now commercial properties like an apartment building, you might go up as much as like 25% a year to get yourself to what your premium could be. So you could go from flood insurance to that was $500 to 10, 12, $15,000, and commercial properties even higher. So if you're in a flood zone, you always have to watch, or if you're near a flood zone, what could be the constitute of something that could be out of my control, and see my, especially with a smaller property, when your flood insurance might be 6,000 or 8,000, could go to 20,000, right? Could really crush your cash flow.
Must have been a lot of opportunity to then find some homes to start doing that on your own versus having them as your clients. Was that kind of where you started then, or what?
Yeah, that was the original idea. That was our original game plan. Our original business plan was to take these flood ravaged homes, lift them up, and then lift them up again by like creating massive value into these basically Cape Cods, these 1-story homes, by adding a second story underneath the original first story, and then adding a garage underneath that, which was the foundation. So the entire house was above the base flood elevation. What we didn't take into effect was the time that it took to do all this, which, included permits, which included the actual construction, which included just everything that goes into your basic flip. We also had to take into effect everything that goes into a flood zone and all the work that went into it.
Well, just think of this. If you have a town that's usually thinking that on a year they get maybe 50 permits or 100 permits, and all of a sudden they go from 100 permits to needing 2,000 permits or 1,000 permits, right?
Oh.
That was now. Well, they get overwhelmed and they can't keep up. So the permit process gets delayed.
Right.
21-day window now becomes 3 months or 4 months. Now, on the other side here, you have utility companies that are required to shut off and cut and cap utilities, your electric and your gas. Same thing happens here now. They're doing a couple for new construction here and there. Now they're doing hundreds. So that window for them to do these shutoffs becomes, instead of 10 days, becomes 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks on the front end and on the back end. So you go from a project here where we could turn our project around, 60 days, well, that project is now 9 months. And so you look at these projects especially if you look even now, like you have delays and all kinds of things with materials or other. Well, what's my risk here, and what kind of part do I put myself at market risk, and how long might I have my money tied up, right? So for us, we would do these projects, and they did have the capacity to be very profitable, but there were so many outside things that were keeping us at bay where we couldn't control the timeline anymore. And so a lot of what we focus on today is control as much as we can control, so you can focus on that downside risk. And so we were having projects where we'd do some in cash or some in financing, but we were running ourselves out of time because there were so many things that were just completely outside of our control, right? And so even the same thing, if you had to get, say, a footing inspection or a foundation inspection, typically you get that 48 hours. That would take, you might not get a foundation inspection for 3 weeks, right? And so now you go from a point, you have a mason working, he's ready for an inspection, 3 weeks for an inspection now, and he's going to go get another job, right? Because now he can't wait around, just hopefully this inspection shows up. So we found that so many things were pushing out of control, plus being so busy with all of our other projects. And that's what kind of led us into the next stage, which was wholesaling for a minute, but then moving into rentals out of state, where we were going after putting together a team, which was coming back from our background, right? We were running places that had a couple hundred people before, and to go into New Jersey, where we were so dedicated to doing all the work ourselves. And so we found investing out of state, because it allowed us to kind of take ourselves out as the bottleneck and put people in positions that they could do things to be their best use. And then we could accomplish the goal to find these rentals that good cash flow. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you go from so now you've gone to wholesaling. You did your first deal, which is based off of kind of the family business there. Then you go to wholesaling. How do you get to syndications, or how do you get from that? Are you still wholesaling and syndicating? So how do you get to?
Yeah, we dragged out doing a couple of those flips for a while. So we actually pushed the narrative even with the timeline, right? And then it led us to these small multifamilies out of state. And that was the aha moment, right? Because checks start showing up. But what you get here is that what happens with small projects, if you want to accomplish a goal to get back your time, you need a certain amount of cash flow. Well, we were going to have a lot of projects and have to buy a lot of these 2 and 3 families all over town just to try and make this make sense. And the chaos of trying to just condition all this, just even with the checks and even just how good this looked, seemed like we were missing something, Right.
So when we got into small multifamilies, I was from Oria. Somebody approached me, had amazing deals, or at least that's what he told me. And it was like a turnkey thing. So I was like, okay, I'll look into this. And I was like, you know what? No, I don't want to do it. He was like, no, take a look at it. I want you to just look at the numbers. I promise you this works. I'm like, fine. So I look at the numbers and it makes sense. So I show it to Jason and we talk and we're just like, well, maybe he has some duplexes. So I go back to him, ask him about that. We ended up taking 2 of his duplexes in Indianapolis, Indiana. And now we're at that stepping stone where we realize, okay, this works out of state. And we don't have to pick up a hammer. We don't have to fix a toilet because we can't go there. Jason did go and check it out. We did do our own boots on the ground work, but we realized that we could come, like Jason said, we could stop being our own bottleneck because we went from knowing how to manage hundreds of people to just wanting to do it ourselves so much. Now we had to expand back. We had to go back to what we knew how to do, our management capabilities. So we're doing these duplexes out of state, and we realize that, or Jason realizes that it's not really scalable. So he has this amazing idea, and I think I'm pregnant with our second child, and he comes to me. He's like, Pili, no laughing yet. He's like, Pili, we can do, Lika, stop laughing.
No, I can't help it.
He's like, Pili, I'm very, very pregnant. Second child. Pili, focus. We can do these duplexes. What if we can do 10 units, 40 units, 400 units? And I'm just like, absolutely not. I mean, we've already told you guys, we had the construction company, we had the flipping company, we had the wholesaling company. I think you sold part of the brewery, and we had all these things. Plus we had the kids, plus we had the houses, plus we had all the things were happening. And I was like, absolutely not. We can't jump into something else. But Jason's really good at convincing, and he put the education in front of me, and we were like, okay, let's dive in. And it was the education piece and the mentorship piece, and just Jason's ability to just kind of bulldog his way through things. And that's where we stepped into large multifamily and got to our first deal within those first 8 months after we decided to closing our first deal. It took about 8 months because we saw the opportunity, at least Jason saw it, because it wasn't until that first deal that, I mean, you've all heard the law, and if you haven't, the law of the first deal. All of a sudden, my head exploded, and I was like, wow, this works.
Yeah, we sold all the small multifamilies. Yeah. We got back. We really got conditioned to get back to the focus of what we wanted to go after, and we got really dialed in on where we wanted to do this, right? So we first started looking at a market in Greensboro, North Carolina, realized that wasn't going to be the right market for us, and transitioned over to Louisville, Kentucky. Started really just learning the terms, putting ourselves around other people who were doing it successfully, so we could learn what they were doing, right? So just to just model our plan after what was being done successfully, because so many times we want to create it our own, where in fact real estate is not a new game. People have been doing it forever, so let's see how other people are doing this.
And that was our biggest mistake when it came to like flipping and wholesaling, is that we tried to do it ourselves first, and it wasn't until we got that mentorship piece, even in those industries, that we didn't get to scale up. So we decided to skip all the nonsense of trying to do it ourselves and go directly to the source.
Yeah, so we sold those two.
So I have so many questions for you guys. Going back, you had a pretty successful wholesaling company. You had a pretty successful flipping company. And now I speak to a lot of people that do it all. They have a YouTube channel, and then they have a cryptocurrency company. So what made you guys say, okay, let's get rid of all of that stuff that's actually working for us to just focus on multifamily?
I think you said the word pretty, because it's pretty good, right? So we're doing pretty good in a lot of spaces here, but that doesn't get you to great, right? And so there's only so much time allocation. Now you throw in 3 kids in the mix and 2 bulldogs and just wanted to do, get our life back here, right? Now you look at your core business, and the most successful people out there, they don't start and do 57 businesses at once, right? They have businesses them to be able to do other things that now they can focus on because they've made that one business they can build on.
Well, and also we knew that in the flipping and wholesaling industries, we were never going to be passive. It was never going to be something passive. It was always going to be us picking up the hammer. At least with large multifamily, it's not passive by any means. What we do is not passive in there, but we knew we could hire people out. We could leverage a team. So that's one of the largest reasons why we got rid of what was a very lucrative, very profitable company. But we knew that multifamily was the next step and it would allow us to get our time back.
And you mentioned two other things that I thought was genius. You said education and mentorship. And you said you didn't do that in the beginning, but you did it when you moved and you switched to multifamily. And I think that's huge and that's important. What education did you guys go after?
So we even did it on the single family side too, because we found that putting ourselves in masterminds and around other people here who are just doing it well, it could be, you start to level up not only just your business, but your mindset. And so many times it's your mindset that's holding us back, right? So even a lot now we see in multifamily, like, I'll be safe. I'll go with a 6 or an 8 unit out of the gate because it will be safer. And the question is that, well, is a 6 unit safer than a 100 unit, right? So let's look at the math here, right? So if you have one vacancy on a 100 unit, you're at 99% occupied. If you have one vacancy on a 16 unit, you're at 80, 82 or 83% occupied, right? The banks are going to like you better with the 100 unit. You're going to have 100 tenants who could potentially pay your rent going of fact. You could do a ton more with a larger property in terms of even if you did something like a water savings plan, you're going to be able to move the lever just a little bit, and it's going to have massive ramifications on these properties. So it was just us getting around other people to just really level up our thinking, level up how we do this, and then find the ways that it's usually not the big things that keep us from doing things, right? So if you want to buy an apartment building, you get the concept. I need to buy an apartment building, but it's usually those small things like, what would be, blue sky laws for like SEC attorneys or something like that maybe comes up that sidelines you for a couple of weeks because you just haven't thought of that question. So it derails you from your plan. But when you surround yourself with like-minded people or people who have leveled themselves up here, you now can keep yourself on the path, because in 2 seconds you could call someone up or text someone and saying, hey, this came up, what do you do? And they would say, oh, it's no big deal, just do this, right? And now instead of being derailed for 2 weeks trying to find the right Google search term or the right thing to do here, then we can keep the narrative pushing forward because you have team members, or whether it just be internal team members or your community you've built around us that helps you move forward.
So you talk about leveling up and kind of mentorship that you've used. Do you find that either your teammates or other individuals from social media or something reach out to you for mentorship, or have you found that on your end?
We have, yeah, we've been doing that for a bit now. And it's been part of that point is that, again, like you have to get most of the time for people. The first thing is it goes, what's the goal? Like, what are you trying to seek? Because so many times we find our goals by someone sees something on Instagram and like, oh, that looks cool, so maybe that's my goal too. But it's not, you have nothing vested in that decision, right? It's just that, oh, that looks cool, so maybe I want, like that fancy car, that house, but you really don't, because you haven't really thought of it. Like, what do you want? Like, oh, I want 1,000 units or $1 million or all these points, but you might be happy with, $10,000 a month. You might be perfect with that, but because you haven't asked the question, what do you really want? That's where you have to start. Like, what do you want and why? What would be the impact? You want to be financially free? Does that mean that you want to just have your expenses paid every month and now you can do what you want? Or do you want to have, $100,000 in cash for every month, right? Both can make you financially free, but what is it that you're actually seeking? And so much with mentorship is that you have to get aligned on the mission so we can create a plan to get you to the goal.
So that's the conversation that we have with people that are looking for that mentorship piece. It's not about us. It's not the Jason and Pili show. It's about the person that's calling you. It's about the person who wants to, it's basically, I consider all conversations basically investor conversations. They're relationship conversations, whether or not they're looking for more information, whether or not they're looking for mentorship, right, whether or not they're looking to place equity, whatever it is. I want to know what they want. I need to know what they are looking for. I need to make them the hero of the story. I'm the hero of my own story, but if they're coming into my story, their story is more important to me. Finding out how I can assist them, how I can be that, I'm going to use basketball terms. Oh no, correct me if you need to.
Okay.
That I'm not going to be the person. I'm not going to be Michael Jordan. I'm going to be, what's the guy that used to have the really, really funky hair?
Dennis Rodman.
Yes, I'm going to be Dennis Rodman. I'm going to be the one that assists. I'm going to be the one that puts the ball into Michael Jordan's hand. I don't even know if they were on the same team.
I was going to say, where are we going?
But you get it though. Somebody gets it. I think Kaylee gets it. I'm the one that hands the ball over. I want to be the one that gives the opportunity. So whenever we're having those discussions, so the answer to your question, Brad, is yes, we've had those conversations. Now that we're at a certain point in our journey, we want to give back to other investors. We want to give them either information, education, or a place where they feel that they can invest in. So having those conversations, it's about them, not us. And it's about the opportunity that we can provide them.
I love that. I love that you say that it's about them, because every story is so different. Every new beginning is so different. And this industry is one that there's no roadmap. So if you can provide someone with the right tools and the right mindset, I think that would either make or break their career. So it's super, I think mentorship is just like key. I had some amazing mentors that helped me right when I first got started. And my mentors, I think, and I still have mentors. AJ Osborne, Kaylee works with AJ. AJ is one of my most amazing mentors. And just learning from him, growing, with their team is fascinating. And then you just get to see all the cool stuff that they're up to, right? So going to now owning 850 units, what kind of tech helped you even get there? A lot of our audience had that question, what tech did you use? And what different platforms do you use to kind of scale your business?
You saw me pointing.
Yeah.
And I'm on our screen, Brad's right next to me. So I'm pointing at Brad.
I can point to him.
I'll take this as the one with club hands here, is that you the tech, we always think that we need this piece that's going to be this magical solution at the start, right? But sometimes you're just getting ourselves started, right? So we did a lot of things just on Excel sheets to start out, right? But now as we started to level up, then we start using things like Asana to track our tasks, to move into InvestNext, right? So we can be more professional, even we wanted a better user experience getting back to the investors, right? I could have been fine continue on the side with the Excel sheet, but now it eliminates a lot of things in the back end for me, for investors, right? So all their tax documents can be on all one place. You can do your distribution for the platform. So it can make the user experience now for investors gets much better. And the same thing now working on operations here, we'll keep a lot in Asana because it helps us track tasks from the asset management side here. So where are we at with the process, whether it's going to closing, we're taking over now that we're working on even the Little Rock deal that we just closed, working on that plan out of the gate, working with the management company, working with the contractors, right, to systemize. And then depending on the management company, we may utilize whether they're whatever management software they're using, we may utilize that as part of the business plan for that property as well.
And to what Jason was saying, don't let this stop you from starting. Use an Excel sheet, use Google Sheets, whatever you need to do. That's what we use. We still have them. We still use them from time to time, just to go back to make sure our information has transferred. But the thing is, as you grow, as you scale, you're going to have to bring on platforms like InvestNext to grow into, so you can start buying your time back. Because as you get busier, those Excel sheets are going to be all over the place. You jump in with Brad or InvestNext, now you're starting to get your time back. Now you have, and you're leveraging team members. InvestNext becomes part of your team, or as any other team member, your attorney, your lawyers, your GPs, your LPs, everyone's part of your team. But this team member helps you get your time back.
Yeah, it's about getting started. Lots of times that it's you can think of anything. I'm going to get started as soon as I figure out the name for my business, and then I need to create an LLC. Then once I create a website, and now you're down a rabbit hole, getting business cards in 6-7 months, and you haven't done a thing, right? And you can do so much out the gate just to keep going, and all that stuff. I don't even know if we have business cards. So
we don't have business cards.
We don't have
anymore.
business cards.
Yeah,
so,
I don't pass those out anymore either, too. So yeah, business cards gone away.
I have an electronic business card on my Instagram account. You should check that out.
I love that. I also had an electronic business card. I thought those were so cool.
Well, thanks for the shout out. We definitely appreciate that. I mean, one of the things we're trying to do is create time back for you guys, and that's kind of like the whole idea and aspect around an investor portal. But there's also stuff when it comes to like finding your property, finding your investors, like creating value for them. So how do you differentiate yourself as far as like creating value for a property versus creating value for investors? Do you guys focus on those like those different aspects?
Yeah, so we find that you have to have a handful of ways you can find properties. You're gonna have a lot of leads that are going to be generated from brokers, right? There's always going to be that point where they're going to have the best access to deals. So you're going to have that big exclusive. It's like 7 out of 10 is going to come from brokers, right? So we're having leads come over, and then the other 3 is going to be a mixed bag. It's going to be that whether it be direct to seller, or through calling, or through mailing, or through a different relationship, whether it be through a property manager or a friend, right? So that's where our leads going to come
Or your
through.
lender.
Or our lender. Yeah. So the lender, Little Rock deal we closed on. The lender grew up in Little Rock, knew about this property that wasn't being marketed well because it was being marketed by a residential agent. So we were able to know that this deal wasn't being capitalized on because it wasn't getting out to the maps. So we were able to walk into a deal here that no one could find because maybe it was being put on a platform where it was like single family houses were being sold. And so anybody looking for a single family house doesn't want to buy an apartment building, but just the residential broker had it on the wrong platform, right? And so we walked into a property here in the best areas in Little Rock here. We were able to get in there and see the value, and we're really walking into a sweet deal there. And from the investor side here, it gets back to the core components here of just we have to make sure that we don't need the investor to invest for us. We want to make sure it's right for us, right for them. So if they want a short-term, project, 6 or 12 months, well, it's not going to be the right fit, right? Because we're going to be, 5 to 7 year deals, right? And so,
well, and the great thing is it comes back down to listening, right? It's you hearing that, not like trying to badger them again. It's with the giving, not the taking. It's the providing opportunity, not trying to raise money. I don't try to take money from anybody. That's not what I'm out here to do. I'm here to provide opportunity. It's not raising capital, it's providing opportunity. So, but you have to listen to your investors. If they're saying that they, like Jason said, want that 6 to 9 month turn on their money, I am not going to keep that deal or that investor. I'm going to say, Mr. and Mrs. Investor, I don't have any properties like that. I don't have any investments like this right now, but here is a list of other investors that I know that you can go and call and invest with. I will make that introduction. So the great thing is this investor still goes into my spreadsheet of investors with exactly the time and date of the phone call, what I told them, so that when they are ready, because I come to that part of the conversation, even though you're not ready to invest in my kind of deal, please let me know when you are after you go invest with my friends. So they know that, and they're going to know, like, and trust me because I have provided opportunity to them to invest their money the way they want to. And chances are they're going to talk to my friends, and my friends are going to let them know that my investments are sound as well. So it keeps inside, and it's all about giving and sharing, because I believe, especially in multifamily, it comes back around. It'll come back around to you. If that investor is right for Jason and I, he or she will come back into our fold and will invest with us in the future.
It's good to keep a list of that as well with like the investor profile, because your pro forma, your idea of where you guys are going may change 5 years from now, 7 years from now. Like I used to work for a company where we had a fund that was just, we'd keep the asset for life. But then we got into some development and we're like, this is pretty good too, and this pays a lot. So you have different appetites for just different investors. So it's good to definitely keep that together. As far as you two, you've been working together since what, 2003 indirectly, kind of, right?
Directly. We used to be in a bar that was smaller than most bathrooms.
Have you found any like pros and cons of working together now versus back then, or is it kind of just like we've hammered these out throughout?
Well,
less alcohol?
Yeah, sure. The people would usually say like, how do you guys work together? Well, we met working together. So it was the relationship side that we had to form after, right? And so from that fact, it gets down to, partnerships. I would say where we've done well is that we've gotten to the point to know what each does, right? So where Pili's going to focus and where I'm going to focus. And usually we have different strengths. And what I see with a lot of partnerships is that two friends get together and they say, "Oh, let's just start a a partnership." However, they're strong at both the same sides, right? So they have the same strengths here, and they go out there, get out of the gate here, and then they quickly realize that this partnership's not going to work because the things they need here, they're both basically the same person. Or you don't have this conversation out of the gate. What is one partner going to do or the other partner going to do? So maybe one partner's pulling a lot of the weight and working so much harder, and now there becomes that disruption in the partnership, right? Or you have different ideas. You start a partnership and one's looking to do that development like you talked about, Brad, and the other one's looking to hold the property forever, right? So now we have different values mixed in. So most of the times with partnerships, it's just having the seemingly difficult conversations up front, but those are the conversations that really become tough if you don't have them down the road.
I'm laughing because we did have those conversations back in the day before when we were friends, when we were coworkers.
What were those conversations like?
A lot of them were over a Corona or tequila, but back to the subject at hand. So what happened was I was his manager first, and it was a great first year. But when I came back to work, because I went to California, like Jason said, and I was in California till 2009, from 2005 to 2009. And I came back to do like some theater project, I forgot what. And I ended up spending more time at the bar than I was with this huge, because I did something for the public theater. It was my dream come true, but I was spending more time with my old bar friends. Now I knew where I wanted to be. The old owner of the company asked me to come back. Came back, Jason was running the show. So our mentalities were now he's my manager. A part of me was not having that. I became a manager too, and we were always put to butt heads together because our mentalities were a lot different. So I was the one that wanted to, I don't know, maybe go for that 2-family. Well, he wanted to go for the multifamily. He wanted to scale up. Well, I wanted to make sure the family was taken care of, the bartenders were taken care of, or I wanted to bring in more people. We had all sorts of disagreements, but we were always friends throughout the entire time. And I found that with Jason and the other people we were working with, I had such a great support system, because no matter what, no matter our differences in opinion, our differences in mindsets, there was always that background of support. We always supported each other. We always discussed things, and we always came to terms with whatever needed to be done and whatever was the best foot forward for the restaurant that we were basically running. We were basically lifting up. I mean, Jason took that restaurant while I was gone and took it to heights that I wouldn't have ever dreamed of. And then I came in and just kind of took it higher, I think.
Yeah, we had
I didn't ruin it.
It taught us scale though. We went from a place that had a couple hundred people coming to on a Saturday at the peak, it was having 25,000 people coming. Yeah. And so it was the busiest outdoor restaurant in New York City. At one moment, the bar over 2 years during just the summer sold more Coronas than the rest of the world. Anywhere in the rest of the world, anywhere in Mexico did for the entire year. This bar in 3 months sold more. That's how busy it was. So we went from having, maybe 10 people out there. There was 250 employees. It was just a massive operation. So we saw, revenue go 25 times, and we just saw how that goes. And it's not this perfect, there's no perfect trajectory, right? In any business, right? You start taking steps and you figure out where it goes. Right. And so I remember the owner decided to build a second story roof deck. And he was I was like, you get permits? He's like, no, we'll see what happens. Right. But he got so far down the road. This is New York City. But by the time they found out, it becomes such a milestone, a mecca of the place.
And he made so much money already
that the city couldn't tell him to pull it down. Yeah. And so it was those points of learning the lessons here of that. Sometimes you just need to ask the questions, and sometimes you need to take the step and figure out what the questions are. And so a lot of the mentality now is that we don't know what the answers are, right? The goal is to find the better questions. And that's most things in life here, is that we're looking for the perfect answer, but we don't know what the question is, right? Because we haven't done the work to figure out what is the question I need to ask, but we want the answer, right? And so most of the times now is being spent as we go into new phases of our business, is that we have to get better at our questioning, right? We have to get better at our questioning. And we just saw this with our assistant going through on our first closing now, is that she's having these aha moments, right? Because she's seeing the process come to fruition, right? She's seeing these things happen where she's saying, oh, now I understand what the answer is right now, because I understand the questions we should be asking for the results, right? And so that's a lot about what our business has currently continued to grow with is that we've gotten better with our questioning.
And to bring it back, because I kind of took everybody on that bar tangent, to bring it back to Jason and I, we were able to kind of, like Jason said, we were coworkers first. We worked together first, and then we built our relationship based on our ability to work together. So anytime there is a difficulty or an misunderstanding, we know it's because there's a communication like cut. Something one of us is not communicating to the other person, and we recognize it almost immediately, and we figured it out. So that is how we work together so well, because we were partners first. We took the friendship, the relationship friendship, turned that into a partnership, and then now it's an even stronger relationship.
That's awesome. I love that. So if anybody here is looking to partner with your spouse, first go and work at a super high stressful bar in New York. And if you can withstand that, then you're good to go. Then start
it's going to be bartending for multifamily boot camp.
Which
yes, I would join that.
It really is the question though, is that we get a lot of these questions where, I'm working so hard to do this, multifamily thing. And like my wife, my husband doesn't see it, right? But they've never asked them what they want, right? So maybe the wife or husband wants them to not be working a second job and spend more times with the growing kids. But because they never asked that question here, they both have conflicting interests, right? So you have to ask, like, hey, I'm doing this. This is why I'm doing this. Like, what do you think about this? Instead of just going on this journey by yourself and assuming what other people should be thinking.
Or even giving them your whys, why you're doing that. Because sometimes your wife or husband doesn't know what to ask you. They just know that they want to see more of you and that you're jumping into something totally new and unexpected, and they want to know why. And if you can give them a solid why, then it's like the world will open for them. It's communicating. I know that's like the answer everybody gets, but it simply is communicating, knowing the questions, and also giving your spouse the answers that they might not know that they're looking for because they don't know the question.
Right. I love that. I want everybody here to hear about your mentorship program. We have some amazing speakers that come on here, and my audience really gets so much value from, going out and researching these different programs and joining them, because, it just helps take your business to the next level. Can you tell us a bit about your mentorship program and maybe even put in a link to where they can find more information?
Fantastic. So it's so funny because we've been mentoring for quite a while now, for a few years now, and we still have a hard time talking about it because it comes back to the providing value and providing opportunity, because we want to know about all of you first before we tell you about what we can do for you, because we might not be right for you. But just in case you are looking for some place to plant some seeds to learn more about multifamily, it's called 7-Figure Multifamily. We've actually teamed up with 7-Figure Flipping, which was our old mentorship program when we were flipping and wholesaling. I actually have a funny story there, but that's a huge tangent. And it just went online. We have about 38 businesses that are currently getting mentorship from us. We basically tell you the nuts and bolts, how to start, how to get into it, and how to continue building your foundation and your house in multifamily.
Yeah, learn, grow, scale, right? And that we started out, we've been coaching people for a while, but there was just us, right? And so the bottleneck again became us. And right now we're moving over to partner with 7-Figure Multifamily. Gave us the infrastructure to really just help in a big capacity, right? So to have the bandwidth that we could do awesome events, that we could go out there and really just cater and just give Disney style customer service. And that was the piece that was missing here, because it was just Pili and I, right? So we were limited because we wanted to make sure we wanted people to succeed, right? And that was the big part here. So that's been a lot of fun. We've been really putting a lot of energy in the beginning of this year to set this up the right way and get this out launched in June. And been awesome. We've been out about a month, and we're just loving it, right? So we just had a couple people close deals that we're working on. We had one guy who had a deal that was about to blow up because he had walked into it before he joined the mastermind. We were able to go in there and help him get across the finish line here because he was feeling pressured from the other side. It's about a couple points that we were able to make notes that allowed him to get the time right to be able to make the right choices here.
And we also saved him a bunch of money on that one too.
Yeah. And so part of this has just been really just passing the forward, right? So 7figuremultifamily.com, the number 7figure, the word figure, multifamily.com. If you want to learn more, and if it's something you want to have a conversation, we're happy to. If it's not the right time, of course, keep focusing on your goals and what you want and which direction you need to go.
And I do have to put in a caveat here, when you have a conversation with us, we'll tell you about the mentorship program. But if you want to invest, if you want to just simply have information or just have a conversation, we're up for that too. Again, it's based on you, not us.
So you've gone from brewery, right? Brewery, beer, bartending, to flipping, wholesaling, multifamily syndicating. What's next? So what's the next?
Well, if you knew, so burger, I had a slider in a sushi restaurant. I had a barbecue. So we have covered the gamut.
We almost had donuts.
Yeah, almost did a donut franchise. So, but she smartly cut that off, right? So the goal is to again, stop doing so much and do more with what you're doing, right? So right now we're continuing down the path to just continue on this point because we love where we are, right? And it's been great. We knew part of the narratives we're going to continue to put the steps in. We want to do a deal a quarter. Now that doesn't always align, right? Last year we did one deal in the first quarter, but we did 3 in the last quarter. And so it just gets down to doing the nuts and bolts of the work to put ourselves in the best position to reach that goal, right? So we're not worried about how many units we have. We just want to continue to do one deal a quarter. So we've got just had 2 out of the way in Q2 that we closed on. We have another deal that we're working on right now that will close out in August. And right, so we're just continuing to do that work and continue to just build our brand, build our community, and continue to just go after larger properties. So right now the next point is just do larger and larger deals, right? Because you go from thinking about, not a 10 unit to 100 unit. Well, how about not a 100 unit to a 200 unit, right? It's the same work, the same effort, the same steps here. It's just now putting yourself in a better position to win with larger properties.
And then we're also in a position to invest more passively, like in Bitcoin and crypto and other people's syndications, other people's deals, and other funds. So taking and being able to invest more passively now is a great feeling.
Yeah, it's great. So you can look at syndications, right? And you can look at a number of ways that you can win with multifamily. You can get cash flow, appreciation, depreciation, debt pay down, tax advantages, and also diversification, right? So you can have diversification ourselves, right? Where we're into our assets, but if we're in one market, right, then we're just only in one market. So investing with some of our friends who are also doing the same thing and having market diversification is also a great thing as well.
So let's talk about financing some of these deals, right? How did you finance your flips and how do you finance your multifamily now?
Sure. Yeah, flips were either cash or cash and hard money. Right. And so for those ones there, multifamily, same thing. Right now, we just did the last one as a partnership. So just one investor who brought all the equity. But typically we raise money and we'll invest alongside the investors, but we'll raise money from retail investors. And they'll put in the money that will cover down payment, closing costs, fees, and capital expenditures or construction costs. And we'll pair that with some kind of debt, whether it's an agency loan or a community bank or somewhere, a loan from a credit union or a bridge loan, depending on the project, right? So the debt's going to transfer over depending on the project we want to do, but we're typically raising, the capital from our stable of investors.
So do you want to hear how we got one investor to put in, $675?
We're talking Little Rock?
Little Rock.
700.
700?
Yeah.
700 to 1.
Yeah, for sure.
This is
Who doesn't want that check?
This is a tangent that I was going to take you on, but I wasn't sure if we had the time. But let's
we have the time for sure.
This is 7-figure flipping, and we just jumped in and we just closed our first large multifamily. We're starting to scale up our flipping and wholesaling business, and when we take these hot seats at these meetings, you have a give and an ask. So our give was, we're going to tell everybody about multifamily. Why not? We just closed our first deal. Let's talk to everyone. Let's tell everybody what we're doing. So we run through how we got educated, how we got into our first deal. We were super excited because this was our first one. It was a 94 unit. And we were blowing people's minds because there were some people in the group that were trying to do exactly what we did, but they weren't doing it. So super excited. We're on this high. We close our presentation, and our mentor raises his hand. Like, other people ask questions, our mentor raises his hand. This nice guy named Andy. He's like, I'm like, Andy, yes. I'm like thinking that he wants to invest now. He's like, oh, I'm like, yes. Andy's gonna ask a question. And Andy raises his hand. He's like, so why didn't I get a phone call? And I realized in that moment, I almost cried too. I was like, I just lost Andy a bunch of money because I didn't call him on this deal, because we had known him for a year by then, and we just didn't think to ask him. So that's why you need to, I know when people tell you, talk to everybody about what you do, talk to everybody about what you do, even the people in front of you that you don't think to talk to. I should have talked to him. We should have talked to him. We should have thought of that. So after that first deal, Andy and some of the other mentors, some of the other people that we were with in our mentorship group have invested in all of our deals. Since there was a point though, where Andy was like, I want to stop passively investing. I love your deals. You're awesome in what you do, but I want to be on the GP side. So I would send him a deal and he would say no. I would send him a deal and he would say no. Finally, this deal comes to fruition, and we're like, okay, it's time to raise money. And I was like, I don't even think I told you I was going to do this. I only sent it to Andy first. And I knew I was going to get the phone call or the email. I don't know if he called you or emailed me, and he was like, Pili, let's talk on this one. And that's how I got one investor to take down the entire deal with us. So talk to people. You don't know where those relationships will turn into these amazing partnerships. He knows, likes, and trusts us. We know, like, and trust him enough to partner up, bring this deal to the forefront, and only partner up with him and basically did a JV with him on this huge deal. So you don't know what's going to happen in the future. So why not present yourself in the best light and talk to everyone? So that was
so many times we think that, like, oh, we don't know anybody who would want to invest with us, but it simply just comes out, just talk about what you want to do and stop judging what you think people may be able to invest. Because many times we don't know the story, right? There's a lot of people who that, you know, we may think, oh, they probably don't have money, but they do, right? Maybe anything. Maybe they just done something where they've been storing money away for years, or they have money in an IRA that's been sitting there getting killed, or they got an inheritance, or, you know, you fill in the blank. Or the question goes is that you talk to them and it's a great conversation. You give them, good information for them, but you can always ask that question. Do you know anybody else who this might be right for? Right. Because that leads you to a ton more investors. So usually the gap between starting and finding investors is that just start talking about what you're doing, whether it be in a meetup like this or other, and then people will want to know more, right? They'll want to know more, and it's not going to be right for everybody, but there will be a good point where you start finding more and more people who do want to work with you or invest with you, because you're allowing them to understand that you're actually doing it, right? And usually that's the gap, is people just don't know what you're doing, and that's why you can't find investors.
I love that, because I just did a capital raise, and when we finished the round, I was talking to people and telling them I did that, and they were like, why didn't you call me? And I was like, oops, and these are really good friends of mine that are real estate investors that I've known for 7-8 years now, since I started. So they know my journey, they know what I've done, they know what I accomplished, and they know that I can get this deal done and I can offer some pretty killer returns, but I didn't offer them the deal. And so my next capital raise will be better, I promise. Thank you for driving that point home. Okay, so we have a couple more minutes. You want to take the next one?
The next question?
Yeah.
Yeah. You focused on with direct mail, I think, at some point, right? Where you guys are doing direct mailers.
We did with our flipping business, we did with wholesaling, right? We use it in a limited capacity here, to the point. So we actually closed a 93 unit off a mailer here. So it was a partner of ours actually brought that deal in, right? So, but it was a letter to an owner, put himself in the right position, right? So, but it's always that point of just making sure that you're using your resources most effectively. We get back to the point where we're going to have about 70% of deals with brokers, right? So we want to make sure that the energy is allocated to that, and that if mailers are our strength here, we have to look at where those mailers are going, right? It might be more effective on, this one was a 93 unit, but probably that, maybe 10 to 50 unit might have more bandwidth with those mailers than a 200 unit property. So as we try to continue to scale up here, we're making sure that the goal, right? So find those properties that we're putting the energy into the right resources to find those deals.
And then on the direct to mailer or direct to seller point, our partner is excellent at that. So when we shut down our flipping and wholesaling business, we were on, I think we were using Investor Fuse, we were on Podio, we shut the CRM down. All the realtors that I knew, I was just like, okay, I'm going to funnel some stuff to you. I'm going to funnel some stuff to you. Let me know if you close anything. Because that marketing, we were paying like 15,000, I think the last marketing push we did a month. We were doing 15,000 a month in our flipping and wholesaling, just for marketing. So what our partner did was take all the flipping and wholesaling knowledge that he had, all the direct to seller knowledge he had, and he took that knowledge, which is what we didn't do. We went direct to brokers, and that was our strong point. But he took that knowledge and took it to the next level into multifamily. So that's how he was able to jump into that and use his wholesaling knowledge. So any wholesalers here who are thinking about jumping into multifamily, don't just dismantle your systems. Maybe you can transfer your systems over into multifamily.
Love that. Use the chat, all of you, our audience, use the chat to kind of tell us what you do, what you need in your business, network with each other, because that's what this platform is about. And now we're going to open it up to you to ask Jason and Pili whatever questions you have. I know you guys put some amazing questions in the form that you filled out, but go ahead and put them here too. And I'll ask you one to just get started. The one question that we saw was, if you're brand new to real estate investing, what resources for financing do you have, and really how can one get started?
So that's a loaded question, but it gets back to what do you want, right? Because everybody says, oh, I want to do real estate. Well, you could do anything. You want to do tax liens, you want to do wholesaling, you want to do flipping, you want to do notes, you want to do Airbnb, you want to do where do we go, right? So what's the goal here with that, right? Because that lots of times the goal leads you to the steps to get there, but so many times we're looking for that first perfect step to get us out of the gate. You're going to learn a lot of lessons by just getting started, right? And so we ran a pretty big, when we were in New Jersey, we started a meetup and we started getting about 2,500 members. I remember this one guy for almost over a year, coming, learning all this stuff, but he wanted to do flipping first. So he's learning all about flipping and doing all this thing, but just hadn't done a flip. And he finally, a year and a half into it, goes and does his first flip. And he's like, I hate this. I hate working with contractors, right? So he could have eliminated a year and a half of his life, just going out there and taking some reasonable action in the first moment here that would have got him to the answer. Because so many times we think we need to oh, if I do this, it has to be the perfect thing, right? And if everything will be ruined if I don't. But usually you get quicker to your goal by doing something you don't want. And okay, I don't want to do that. So, okay, now let me try something else. Oh, I don't want to do that either, right? So just trying things and being creative about what you want so you can get quicker to what you don't want that can lead you to what you do want. And so it's kind of a roundabout answer, is that you have to get back to just trying a phase and seeing if it's right for you, but knowing where your goal is, right? If your goal is to get some more cash, like a chunk of cash, okay, what would do that, right? Probably not buying, some buy and holds right now, right? But if you want to do that, maybe it's going to be flipping, right? So what is it you actually want? And that's going to help you really just take action towards a direction to get you to that goal.
Right.
So we got a question.
Yeah, we got a question from Gabriel, who's in Charleston right now. Awesome. You were just there.
I was just in Charleston, Gabriel. I love this town.
Should have looked them up. You scale a small single family, small multi-family first, or go straight into mid-size multifamily? I think it depends on probably the question, right? That and I think it's the same work, but I'll let you guys kind of answer that.
Yeah, we answered this question, I think, but to reiterate what we said, yes, we scaled our single family flipping and wholesaling business first. We got into small multifamily and then jumped from 2 duplexes to 94 units.
Yeah.
But what you have to understand is that even though we say, I believe in the path of mentorship, look at those that have done it before you, that can give you the path that they've given. That does not mean that your path is going to be the same. For instance, our assistant found her on Clubhouse. She happened to enter in basically every conversation that I was having on Clubhouse, and I've had a lot. Every conversation I was in, she'd be there. So I would invite her up. She would say that she was new, and I would invite her to speak about if she had any questions, and she would ask really, really intelligent questions. And she was living in like Utah or California at the time. And one day she said, I'm making my way over to Tennessee. I'm thinking about moving there. Do you mind if we meet up? And I said, of course. And we had multiple conversations, and I think she was looking for a way to like kind of get mentorship, kind of like figure it out. And she was already learning how to do, sorry, I'm seeing a lot of questions pop up. I'm gonna stop looking at that. She was already figuring out how to underwrite. So I already saw that she was taking these steps on her own. So we meet, but what's the chances we actually lost our
Your
assistants?
assistant's mom got sick. She had to move home to Florida right as the moment Alessandra came, and it was
2 days later.
It was perfect, right?
It was perfect.
She's been a huge addition to the team here.
So
right?
that's her path. She went from no real estate experience to closing her first multifamily with us just a few days ago. Yeah. So that's her path. What is your path going to be, and how will you build it out?
Yeah. And I think, Gabriel, one thing to touch on here is that you have to get back to like, what do you actually want again? Because like, if you want to scale your flipping business, cool. Right. But if you want to just do large multifamily, like you don't necessarily have to do 2 units, right? It's like, hey, I want to go learn to swim, but you ride a bike to figure it out first. Right. Well, it's like the same thing here. Like if you want to do large multifamily, we'll focus on that, right? Like there's no thing that says like you have to go do, like flipping first or something, right? So you have to get back to the goal, right? What's the goal? If it's large multifamily, then focus on the steps to get there, that are logical steps to get you in that position to do that.
Love that. And we have so many questions. So here's another really good one from Fadi. He says, what should a mentor expect from a mentee, and what should a mentee expect from a mentor?
Yeah.
So as a mentor, I feel like I have a fiduciary duty towards you. That's one of the great things about being an agent. You learn all about that. So I have a duty towards you to give you all the knowledge I have, to give you what I can to take you to the next step, to give you conversation, to give you the questions that you might not know how to ask, to give you a great program that you can base your education on, to give you what you need to succeed, and to have my own goals for you, and to absolutely listen to you and know and understand what your goals are. As a mentee, you need to put in the work. Without you putting your foot on the gas, without you putting your head to the grindstone, without you putting in the work, without you making the choice to do the work every single day, nothing's going to come of it. So I will give you as much as I can. One of my personal mottos is to lead with aloha. And that means to enter a room, enter a space like this, enter whatever it's Clubhouse, and exiting my bedroom, entering my bedroom, I try to lead with aloha. I try to lead with love, kindness, hope, and strength, and everything in between. It's the same thing with you. If you and I have that partnership, because mentor and mentee, it's a partnership. If we're having that partnership and I'm putting my 100%, you need to be putting your 100% into.
Yeah, so one of the cool things we've set up this is accountability groups, right? So we have about I don't know how many accountability groups, so 6 people each, right? And so a bunch driving in that factor there, but that's a big driver, right? Because it's not only us holding you accountable, it's you holding others accountable in the group, you holding yourself accountable, right? Because we can give you all the information, but if you're not going to use anything for that, it's all for naught, right? And so for you, it's first us helping you across that mental threshold, right? So making sure you're understanding where you want to go so we can create a path, right? Because so many times, things fail. Like if you look at like New Year's resolutions, like 88% of them fail. Well, why? Because people set big, grandiose goals, but there's no backing to it or no reason that they want that. So there can't be really a plan to get there because you're setting a goal that has no foundation to it, right? So the goal as the mentor is help you learn what that foundation needs to be to get you to where you want to go.
What is that reachable goal, and what are those action steps to get you to that goal?
It all comes down to the questions too that you asked.
I'm going to say one thing. Keith says, really appreciate how thoughtful and open you both are and offering valuable info. Keith is one of my favorite people. He is just getting into real estate investing. Keith, so nice to see you here. Thank you.
And thank you so much. Thank you, okay.
Thank you, Keith.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. You guys are very thoughtful, and like the information is great that you're providing right now. Definitely resonating with it during this time. So yeah, appreciate it.
We're both shocked that we've been on a podcast together or a meetup together, and we haven't had one screaming kid yet from another room. So I think that's
Now that he said it.
Yeah, I'd give it 20 seconds.
It's about to happen, you guys, before everything comes down. And then Lisa Hilton. Lisa Hilton is here, and she's amazing. So do connect with her. Hi.
And then Paul and Anne Lorraine have a 1031 exchange that they're thinking about selling into a 1031 exchange. I know you guys have done a ton of different aspects of real estate. Have you worked with 1031s at all before?
We have not brought any into our deals. Typically, for ourselves, just with the work and the way it needs to be set up, it's going to be $500,000 as a minimum just to bring it over there. But from the fact of 1031s, yeah, it happens all the time. We were just helping one of the people in the group here, Marcel. He's doing it in the mentorship, doing a 1031, going from some of his projects, his single family projects, into multifamily, right? And so there's a lot of different options you can go, but you just have to get clear on how to navigate that water. Because we're seeing the other side too, is that it can be difficult to find projects that with a 1031 that are going to work for you, right? So we're seeing a lot of sellers who potentially want to sell right now, but won't sell because even though the market's great from a multifamily side, they want a 1031 to something and they can't find a comparable project that has, it's not going to meet what they're looking for, right? So you have to know with the 1031, you have your time restrictions and you have to understand what you want to go after here. Because right now we're in a market that's pretty hot, right? So you want to make sure that you're not being forced to make a decision that's not going to be best for your business plan just to benefit from the 1031.
I know you've got a little, or you've got a good knowledge of opportunity zones. Could you 1031 that money into the opportunity zones fund if you're raising a fund, or do you have to like a DST or something?
Yeah, it's actually, we just had a conversation on it. So it's not so much, you wouldn't have to do the 1031. What you would do is just extinguish your 1031 and you would roll any of your gains. And so the difference between a 1031, you have to roll your basis and your gains into the next investment, right? And you do that forever until you unfortunately pass away or until you take that tax hit. With an opportunity zone here, you just roll your gains. So if whatever your basis was, you can take your basis out with the opportunity zone, but you're going to roll your gains in this into the next project. And after the 5 and 7 year horizon, you get a 15% step up in basis. So instead of paying 100% of capital gains tax in there, you're only paying 85%. But after 10 years, any of the money that you've made on that your investment. So you put $100,000 in here. If you make another $100,000, that after 10 years of an opportunity zone, that $100,000 that comes out from there comes out tax free. So that's one of the cool things about the opportunity zone, right? So you'll have that ability to come out tax free on those points. Plus, you can still take advantage of a lot of the other resources that do well in projects, depreciation and other. But that's the big difference here with the 1031. You don't have to put your basis in. You'll get the step up in basis. It's after 5 and 7 years, and then you'll be able to take any of your gains on your original investment out tax free. Where the 1031 has the advantage where you can just keep pushing it down the road here until you decide to take that tax hit into the future. But you do have to put in your basis and your gains.
And it can be gains from anything, correct? It doesn't have to be like kind.
Yeah, that's the cool thing here. You could, if you make money in the stock market, or selling art, or or selling cryptocurrency, or anything in the point here, you can use those capital gains to roll yourself into an opportunity zone.
That's awesome. Thank you for that.
So Casey Chun says, Pili, you represent the Aloha State beautifully. So amazing to hear the success and experiences of another Hawaii girl. Yes.
Yes. Cassie, are you in Hawaii right now?
No, I don't know where she is.
Not sure.
If you're still in Hawaii, then put that, yes, I'm in Hawaii, or no, I'm in ...
Gray, Seattle. She's not so great this week though. Okay, so question from Tiara. Tiara's in the Seattle market. She has been hustling. She joined Fortune Builders. She got all her education. I am also an ex-Fortune Builder student. So I know it's like solid education, but she's having a really tough time finding a wholesale property to nail down. I'm from the Seattle market, so I know how hot the market is. I know that there's some wholesaling companies there that pretty much monopolize all direct mail and all these wholesale off-market deals. So how did you guys kind of differentiate and set up your wholesaling business?
Yeah, we actually thought of it a pretty interesting way. So we were doing some wholesalings around town, but we found there was a city, Jersey City, that was starting to have a huge redevelopment play going on here. We were taking single family homes and be able to go in there, knock them down, and all of the areas was zoned multifamily. So people were wanting to get these houses and buy them for not so much the house itself, but for the land and putting up a 6-unit or an 8-unit, right? So we started finding and wholesaling out to find projects that had the development option here, and then sourcing those people here that wanted that play, right? And so it became a really good pairing here because we were able to go in there, even if it was, a single family to go to 2 families here that you could sell each side in Jersey City at the time for like $700 to $1 million, right? And so we were getting to the point here where we were getting nice wholesale fees by finding a niche there. And so, Tiara, I'd say a couple things is that, it's going to take time, right, to get yourself and find your traction, but you also might have to look back and say, okay, am I putting enough out there, enough mailers to put me in front of enough people? Am I having enough conversations? And then the same fact, am I also being realistic maybe with my fee that I want or in the pricing I'm offering? Because maybe you're offering too low of a price and you can actually offer more based on the market. And you just have to make sure you're tracking the market trend to know, with the current sale figures, right? Because you might be able to do this and pass it on to a flipper or someone else, or even an end buyer here, at that point here, because, but you're offering too low out of the gate here because you're not looking at the comps that really solidify your asking price or your purchase or I guess your buy price.
Tiara, I'm gonna say something on that note. My last flip, I had 3 wholesalers working the same seller, and then finally it was my wholesaler that ended up getting it. He got it for $650, sold it to me for $730, and I'm still gonna crush the deal. But everyone else only offered them $650 to $670. So just know your market, know your numbers.
Yeah.
Next question is from Josh Ferrari, who is my boy down in Alabama. I got to give a shout out to Josh. How you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good, very well. Anyone who's Yarusis have awesome podcasts. Josh Ferrari has an amazing podcast as well, so check that out. Creative Capital.
And Brad is on it this morning. His episode just released, right?
Yeah. Check that one out. But check it out. He's always has some good insight. But he had a question as far as multifamily deals. What's the best system you've found for communication or doing so? So as far as email blasts, calling out, maybe it was the direct mailers, text messages, or actually this is probably with your actual investors. Is that like the communication with your investors, Josh?
Yeah, specific to like when you actually have a deal come, is it better to have a specific group of investors that you go out to and you send, like you said, you sent the deal to one person and that one person gave you all the money? Like, because what we've been doing is majorly just blasting and talking to folks, but is there a better way to do it? Is there a specific way? What kind of work for you guys?
Yeah, I don't think we've ever blasted, to be honest. And just so it's the opposite fact that there's not a wrong way. We know people that do, but in the same fact, we have probably maybe 50 to 65% of people just reinvest in the next deal as long as they have the capital ready, right? Usually if they don't, it's because they just don't have the available capital. So we just call out to the first stage of network and then go to the second stage, right? And just keep pushing it out, because lots of times we think we need to have like 10,000 investors, but really we don't. Like you could have 50 or 100 and be pretty well off, right? There's a lot of people that do that. And if your project continue to carry forward, you refinance, pull capital out, just have a sale, a sale event or other, well, that's a lot more capital in their pocket. So, but getting out there in front of investors on the front start, you got the podcast, right? So you're already out there. You start talking to people, just, whether it's constant communication with a monthly newsletter or just other ways to keep in front of people, just so when you do have that project that they're ready, right? So, oh yeah, hey Josh here, I'm just this month, we're checking out, Huntsville, Alabama, right? Just really excited. We've been looking at here. We're looking at these deals. We saw this other thing. Did you hear this note about Huntsville? It's got these jobs coming in point. Next month, same thing right here. So they just know what you're doing. So when you get in front of them, you do have that deal, that they're like, oh yeah, cool, man. We see what you're doing. So just tell me about it, right? And it makes it a lot warmer of a conversation instead of just the constant blast out there where it could feel, a little impersonal.
So I was going to say with that one deal and that one investor, because I knew that investor was just like salivating at the idea to take down a property on his own with a small team. Yeah. So I knew that 99.99999% sure, because there's that small percentage that he didn't have the funds or he didn't want to do it at that point. But I knew if I sent it to him, just taking that day and knowing my investors, because I could have sent it out to 10 other investors that might have got back to me with the same thing or would have joined it on with smaller increments, but I knew that he really wanted the deal. So with us, our other partner that we did the 93 unit, he actually does exactly that. He blasts out to everyone. He was like, we have to do a 506C so we can really, really capitalize on our networks. And I was like, okay, let's do it. That's fine. I get to talk to more people. Yay.
Yeah. And I think it was funny that we did it and we still just did our own way, just kind of called our investors. But it's one of those points, right? Is that there's not a wrong way, but it just continuing the conversation and just not waiting for the deal to happen. Because then if the person's not fluent on what is multifamily investing, then you have a real uphill battle, because then it's like, they have to learn who you are, what multifamily is, why you're doing multifamily, all the things about multifamily, how the deal's structured, how the returns work. And then, about this deal, hey, do you want to invest now? Right. And that's just so much for someone to take on with just one conversation. So if you can get in front of them and have conversations up front so they can better understand, kind of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how it works and how it benefits them, well, then it's a lot easier when you actually have the deal.
And I'll also give you another mindset thing, with the providing opportunity. This is for everyone. So with that mindset of always providing opportunity, guess what I'm always doing as well? I'm always raising capital. With that providing opportunity piece, I'm always raising capital, because I don't know, Josh, Megan, Tiara, Keith, Aaron, I don't know if you're in a position right now to invest in one of my deals. I don't know it unless I put out the energy, the education, the knowledge, the whatever it is that will connect me to you to get you into my system. I don't know what it is that I'm going to say that's going to connect you. So I always go with those mindsets, that even though I'm always going with the mindset of providing opportunity, I have my, it sounds like very cut and dry, but I have my list, and people go on my list, even people that, Josh, you'll probably go on my list later tonight, just because I can say I had this conversation with Josh. We talked about this and this happened, but then that gets set to the side and it's back to providing opportunity. But if you're afraid to raise that capital piece, then stop thinking about that. Think about, I'm providing opportunities to these people. Everyone on this call is here for a reason. Why not put them, start your own list, put everybody on this call on your list, somehow get their information, find them on social and be like, have this conversation with them. Say, you know what? I just saw you on that meetup last night. Can we have a discussion? I want to know what your thoughts are. That make these relationships, because you don't know if that person is going to be an investor, or if that person is going to be a new mentor or a mentee, or somebody that you will simply start listening to your podcast. You don't know where you're going to be able to provide the opportunity. So why not lay it all on the line for them?
I just want to touch on one thing with updates or posts that you're sending out to investors, because I see this a lot. I see a lot of blog posts from my job that I see. A lot are geared towards each project. They're project specific, of like, this is what's going on with this project. This is what's going on with this project. But where a lot of people are missing is you should have on your newsletter, like, all right, this is what we're doing just to everyone. But we went and looked at 7 properties this month. We underwrote these. They didn't work out. And if they keep seeing that over time, you're building this credibility of, all right, they're actually grinding. They're looking at this property. So when they bring a property, it's probably going to be pretty sweet, and it should have some amazing returns because they've been doing all this work. They visited Arkansas, went there, and the property didn't work. So I think if you're doing updates or sending those out monthly, definitely include the stuff that didn't hit, or just kind of like an overview of like, hey, we tried this, didn't work. And then when you actually have one that does land, I think it kind of like resonates with your investors of this. All right, this one must be pretty sweet because they're kind of rolling it out. So so good feedback all there. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for asking that question.
So, before we break into breakout rooms, just a few big shout outs. I see Nate here, and Nate just posted, if you're in the Seattle area, like hit him up. He has a ton of experience wholesaling deals. Also, he is part of a group that hosts one of the largest meetups in the Seattle market. So hit him up, and I know he has a killer in-person event coming up. But everyone else, thank you. If you can stay for breakout rooms, that would be amazing. If you can't, then I would say hop off now. So when we do create the breakout rooms, we have the right number of people on it. Jason, Pili, thank you so much for joining us. It has been such a pleasure. And Brad, too. Thank you for coming on virtually.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for everything. Nice to meet everyone.
This has been a great conversation. And yeah, Tiara, go check out that meetup. It also comes to the people that you know, right? And there might be that one person that gives you that information to take you to the next level in that market, because a lot of what you do is very market specific. So I think you just need to find that niche. You just need to find that like one area that you can just explode into.
Thank you so much.